Tonight we are talking about S. Wait, I've got to hold up this one too. S. Yep. So much in it. Lots to talk about, no doubt. We'll see how we go with all of this. There could be a lot of linking tonight. For anybody who's watching and hasn't read the book, or actually even if you have read the book, I've put an awful lot of links in the Goodreads forum for S, so if you want to go look in there, there's a whole heap of different links in that space that might be useful, or we'll probably refer to tonight maybe. All right, who wants to start? How'd you go? Kim, you want to go? Because I know you haven't finished yet.
I haven't finished. I'm about 100 pages from the end, and so far I'm really liking it. I'm reading it in the order of just as it goes, so I'm reading through Ship of Theseus, and when it gets to a note, I'm reading that note and all the series of notes, and then just going through it like that. So, yeah, I haven't read it in any other particular order, like in chronological order or anything like that, so I'm just going through it like that at the moment, and I'm really enjoying it.
Sarah, as the other person who hasn't finished?
Yeah, look, I really struggle with this book, and I don't know if it's because, I'm trying to juggle this with, a 4/5 month old now, that it's kind of like stop-start.
Because this would be your first big read other than an audiobook, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's been, I don't know, it might be because it's kind of, it flips and starts and you need concentration levels, and those are just things I don't really have right now. I really struggle with this, and I'm so excited by it. I'm not loving it. I didn't like Ship of Theseus much at all, and that was the biggest struggle I had, I think, because I tried to do it Kirsten's way, because I thought that was a really good idea, which is to do a chapter at a time and then go back, and just with my concentration levels, by the time I'd go back, and they're huge off chapters. I'm sorry, they're
massive.
Yeah, there's only 10 chapters in this whole thing.
Like, oh my god, there's just so it's really difficult to kind of figure out where a good breaking point is. But it was just too hard, because by the time I went back, I just couldn't remember everything. I found it really hard, so I just went, okay, I'll just go through Ship of Theseus, and then I found that really dry. Yeah, the last two chapters, the interlude and then chapter 9 and chapter 10, were the most enjoyable parts of the whole thing, and I think they kind of had, maybe it's because they had a different tone, but it was almost like that could have been, like chapter 10 I think was an interesting one, because that could have been a short story standalone, like it didn't, you didn't need the rest of it. The notes are really interesting. I think I read the notes for sort of chapters 1, 2, and 3, and then I went ahead, and then I was picking up the blue again, and then by about chapter 6, I went, I'm just going to read everything now, orange and everything. And I know now like I read what the chronological order was, so I was aware that if it was orange, it was after the blue, and then if it was red, it was after that, and then the black. So I knew that when I was looking at a page, what order the things were on the page were appearing. But there's bits of my narrative with Eric and Jen that I'm kind of lost on. Only simply because I just haven't gone back and read some of the other bits, so I'm looking for some clarification there. But yeah, I don't know. I think I think the main thing is, we're a book club and we discuss some amazing books, and to the point that they are. And I know there's a mystery in this, but I just couldn't. If you're going to write about an author who's apparently amazing, then the story itself just wasn't that amazing. I just was kind of going, I don't really, that's where I really struggled, because if it had been such an amazing, captivating story that had a secret behind it, and it was amazingly built in, then that would be one thing. But I was just like, this is just dry, and it just felt like it was like trying to carry the rest of it. Anyway, that's just me. I'm the lone wolf in the pack here tonight, I suspect, but we'll see.
Nothing wrong with that. It's good to have versatility, right? Lots of opinions. Kristen?
I really enjoyed it. I do agree, though, with Sarah about the Ship of Theseus part. I don't think I could have read it if I'd done what you did and read the entire thing at once and then went back for the notes, because generally I was like, I'm just getting through this chapter so I can go back and read the notes. In fact, even though the chapters, like you said, are really long, I'd be lying in bed and going, no, I'm going to finish this chapter because I want to read the notes. And I generally would push through the chapter because it was like, I think I put it as like you're eating you know, you're eating dinner and you want dessert and you're like, you have to finish all your vegetables so you can have dessert.
It was
And so
totally
that
like
was
that.
kind of how I did it. I was like, okay, I
Totally.
need to. And I did find it quite an interesting story, but I did find that the writing was quite, like I'm talking about Ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
The writing was quite dry, but the story itself was quite intriguing, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of Lost in that it seemed like they just kept throwing weird shit in and not really knowing why or where it was actually going. Whether I didn't, you know, that was kind of the impression I got. But the margin notes I really loved, and it made it worth it. So yeah, I really loved it. In overall.
All right, so I adored it. I read this the first time at the beginning of this year, and so this is my second read through. This is right up my alley. I love this kind of book. Anything like this which tells the story in a different way, like this, where, you know, people are writing to each other, so letters and notes and things along those lines. That's just like, yes, give it to me now for me. So I knew that was a pretty slim chance that I wouldn't like this. I totally agree that Ship of Theseus is boring, but I sort of place it in, like, if you remember reading your sort of your classic type stories, and I mean your modern classic type stories in high school, like reading, what do you call it? Great Gatsby. I hated Great Gatsby. It was all symbolism, and I hated the characters, and I was just like, oh, this is shit. And
I think we'll get back. Sorry, Mel.
No, right. But that's how I felt about Ship of Theseus. I felt like I was back in high school, and all of this stuff and illusions and symbolism was going on, and I just didn't understand it. And that's what I felt like with this one. I don't know whether that's true or real or not, because I don't understand that sort of thing enough. I'm not very good at reading those sorts of deep type books. So I just sort of let Ship of Theseus wash over me. I did a page-by-page thing, so I would read the 2 pages of Ship of Theseus, and then I would go back and read all of the notes regardless of colour. That's what I did the first time round. The second time round, I just read the notes, and I would just look at the Ship of Theseus story just to check where I am at in the story, and I actually forgot a good portion of the Ship of Theseus story since my previous read. But I found just scanning the pages now and then when I was just curious as to what was going on was enough to catch me up. I certainly didn't need to reread it or anything. So if anybody wants to give the book a go without reading Ship of Theseus, I don't think you need to reread it. I think you can just read the notes however you want. So whether you want to do them in order of what order they were written in, or whether you just want to read them straight through, whatever you want to do. I just read them straight through this time. I felt, and I'm going to breach into conversation area now, I felt that with the notes that they were written in such a way, they were designed in such a way so that you could just read them regardless of the order and get the wash of the story without having to actually read in order.
I thought that too.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, I'd be interested to know what you guys think. I don't think they're actually in order even in the colours, because they refer to bits before. So even that's actually why I gave up, because I decided I'm just going to take it all in. Because it was basically going, okay, they're talking about stuff that even in the blue, but they're obviously referring to something, and you see that like they'd send each other all over the place, and like they'd find a bit. And I'd imagine, I don't know how they, it's obviously such a stretch of reality, because no one's going to, basically what you're saying is these 2 characters would find this book and then flip through all these pages to find new notes, and then obviously it's more like, because it reads more like an IM conversation, right? Reads more like real time, not like it would be in reality. But I didn't mind that stretch of reality.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, and that's what was good about talking to you last week, when you just said just get through, like don't worry, and I was like, okay, good, because I don't know, I guess I've thought that the book was going to be more, it's really the footnotes, isn't it? The footnotes is really the interesting kind of.
That's the bit I read.
I don't know, but that's the only bit of the book that they're really getting stuck into, was the footnotes.
The footnotes is where the messages from the editor were carried. So FX's messages back to Striker were in the footnotes, and so that's where the mystery part is, which is why they're trying to use that to solve the mystery. But I find that hilarious because FX apparently didn't even know who Striker was, so how are her notes going to give away who Striker is?
Exactly. Gosh.
They spent an awful lot of time on something that I didn't really feel like was actually going to tell them what they really wanted to know.
Yeah. So, Kim, do you mind if we get spoiled?
No,
okay?
keep, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is the, just to help us talk about it, because I'm a bit, what happens? Do they find out what happens at the end? Because there's a bit that they end up in danger. I'm kind of like need a summary of what happens with Eric and Jen because I actually looked for that to know if I needed to look at that before and I couldn't find one.
Okay, so the first thing to be aware of is that the margin notes are not written in chronological order, which means that what happens to them is not necessarily at the end of the book.
Yep.
So really there's actually multiple things that kind of happen to them over time. Obviously how...
I know they fall in love. I picked that up.
Yeah, I mean like about how she's being stalked essentially.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. And she said her parents' barn got caught on fire and
then there was the accident
and they said they were in danger. So what was happening there? Like what happened?
So essentially what obviously a lot of it is inferred because it's happening to them. They're not necessarily spelling it out to each other, especially because at that point in time they're actually meeting and talking in person as well as writing in here. So they don't really spell a lot of that out, so it's inferred. But essentially what is going on there is that they think that either somebody from, I can't remember, someone from Moody or someone from the new S is watching them.
What's the new S?
The new S, so in this book, right, S is essentially the name of the secret society, and it's got three different groups in here. In Ship of Theseus, S is the name of the group who is going around and doing the attacks, and S himself is the guy leading all of that. Then you've got the story, which is the story of Straka, and S is referring to, in that case, when they're talking about it in the margin notes, to the group of authors who are essentially doing what S in Ship of Theseus is doing, but in a more reality-type circumstance, where in theory they're actually going out and murdering people, but we're not really sure if that's going on or not, or whether they're just doing it more subversively through writing. And then there's also this new S, which is what Eric and Jen refer to them as, which is a presumed new group. But rather than seeming to be on their side, they seem to be malicious, but they're not sure. They don't know what's going on. They debate whether or not the new S is maybe... What's the name of the group who sponsors him?
The Seren Institute?
Yeah, they think at some point that maybe S is actually the Seren Institute, and so maybe they're not against them, but they don't know because nobody's telling them who is who or what. There's no sort of real obviousness behind all of that.
Okay.
What they do know is that they're being watched, and possibly people are reading their notes, and that there is a possibility of danger. All of which they escape by at the end, leaving and going to, what is it? No, it's not Amsterdam.
I'm glad you reread it because I've forgotten so much.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, rereading it with just the margin notes, it's actually a really fun read. It really is. It's just a fun read. I was actually intending to read it like you did, Sarah, where you read it in order of the colours. But I was finding it really hard because I'm not a very strict person with myself.
Well, that's what happened to me. I was trying to read in order, gave up.
I read in order because they still jump all over the place. It's still too hard to do.
That's
it gives you a sort of a time.
They're not even
time period before it changes.
Like down here, they're writing in yellow and green, but then she continues the discussion in purple, and it's like, well, how am I going to break that up and even remember what they're talking about?
Yeah.
And I was give up.
And
That's obviously
I also kind of was like, I figured out really quickly that the later notes were what colour the later notes were. And because it was the romance part that really had me interested more than anything else, I was like, I can't not read this part because I just want to know, like, whereas the earlier the ones in black were not as interesting because they were still just talking about the book. Whereas the later ones, they were talking more about other things and it was more interesting. And I just couldn't stop myself from reading them.
I think the thing is, too, is that it, like I said before, it's written in such a way so that with the different colours in the earlier stages, you just get hints of things. You don't really get the full story, but you just get hints like, oh, she's had some sort of danger. Oh, there's some sort of fire that happened. But you don't really know the full story. You just don't get these hints, and then it just sort of flows. So I think it works perfectly fine reading it that way. It's the ship of Theseus that gets in the way. And
I think maybe I'm in the ship Theseus part more because of the way I'm reading it, because I'm only reading that section up to when they write notes, then I'm going on to the notes, and then I'm going back to it, and then I'm going back onto the notes. So my reading of the ship of Theseus is very broken up. So only like it might be at most there's like 2 pages before there's a note, and that hardly ever happens. Really, there's half notes.
I tried to do that and I could not figure out, like, I kept forgetting what the hell was going on in Theseus, and
I think you have to have that ability to keep multiple threads of stories going on in your head. And really loosely, like, it's not like, you know how if you read Game of Thrones, you get a good chunk of a chapter of a story before you moved over to somebody else. This doesn't do that. You get like a little slither here and a little slither there, and it all sort of ties together. And you start off with majorly these sorts of colours, and then by the end it's in a totally different colour sort of thing. So it's definitely a different way of telling a story, but I think they've done a pretty good job. It's just whether or not you're willing to sort of let it flow over you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's for everybody. Like, I wouldn't give this book to Nye. As much as I wish he would read it so I could talk to him about it and stuff, I know he won't like it. It's just not his style. So
yeah, Kevin has also said, and it's not that I would. He's just seen me struggle with this, and he wants me. He's been saying, just don't finish it. You're just struggling with this so much, and there's no way he'd read it. To see how I don't know. So I have a couple of questions. And the bits that I was reading about, there was a reference to a photograph of a group of people.
Can I stop you just for a second? I don't want to say you can't do that. Can I get everybody to write down who they think Striker is before we go any further? Because
I have no clue. I can't even get.
I don't know. I don't. Sorry.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Maybe the second reading does that for you. I left the end of the second one and I was like, know who it is. Totally know who it is.
Really? Because I was like, damn it, I wish they would have told us because I have no clue. And I look at it and go, that was one thing I didn't like about the book, is it was like, I'm really dumb. I got to the end and was like, I'm supposed to have figured out all these clues and I haven't. That's why I don't like murder mysteries, because I can never figure it out.
Yeah, I'm like that too. But with this one, there's multiple mysteries throughout this book, right? Like, whoops, we just lost Kim. There's multiple mysteries in this book, like what is the bag that was in the locker and things along those lines. So
the Grand Central Station, that one.
Yeah, Grand Central Station, there was a bag in the locker and that was in the footnotes that they decode and everything.
I remember now,
Yeah, so there's lots of little mysteries along those lines along the way, but the one big mystery is who is Straka. Now, they don't spell it out who it actually is, like there's no definitive answer, but I think the point is that with something like this, there is never a definitive answer, because all you've got left are hints and clues, and you can only make your best guess based on it. It's like trying to just figure out who Shakespeare is. But I think you leave the end of this, at least I did on my second reading, but I didn't on my first, with a pretty confident feeling of who you think it is. Right. But the problem is so many people on their review say, I think I know it is, but nobody says who they think it is. And I'm like, well, let me know if I think the same as everybody else.
Right. I wonder, can I just ask a quick question, which Mel, if you've reread it, you might remember. Chapter 10 is the one that was written by somebody else, correct?
Yes, the editor.
So Philomena wrote chapter 10?
That's right.
Well, she did a freaking better job than Stryker did, because chapter 10 was probably the best fucking chapter in the whole fucking book.
I think what was brilliant was how different it was. Like,
it was great.
Yeah,
something cared about people.
It was such a different type of storytelling, because everything else was just
really
illusions and what's going on here, I don't know, and dwelling on the eyes of this baby, and
It was awful. I actually got moving in chapter 10. But I didn't mind chapter 9 or the interlude either. And so one of my theories is that, because I think, who wrote the interlude? Was that Philomena as well?
No, that was actually Stryker, but the difference with the interlude was that they changed the perspective. Instead of being the third person, it was now second person.
Second person, yeah. I didn't mind that, especially because the location was Winter City from memory. And yeah, chapter 9 wasn't bad either. So my theory,
the one where he's in the city and he's been there for ages, and
chapter 9 there's a lot of, it's the agents maybe.
Oh no, so no, the agents is the interlude when they're going around and killing all the different
then
agents.
chapter 9 must be Winter City, yeah, which I didn't mind either. Yeah, anyway, so I guess my theory would be is that one person wrote basically chapters 1 through to 8, and then I don't know what my theory is that the other, like, interlude and chapter 9 they just feel a bit different, and I wonder if either there's been a crisis of writing or it's happened years later, I don't know, or if it is a different person.
It's spelled out in the book. Philomena actually says she wrote chapter 10 because...
No, chapter 9 and the interlude as well, because they...
Oh, right, as well.
Yeah,
Philomena says that they were all there, but that she wrote chapter 10 because chapter 10 was unfinished when Stryker was killed, or she didn't have the finished copy of it.
Yeah, and so I wondered with chapters, with the interlude in chapter 9, it's just a feel, I don't have anything to back the song, I haven't read it yet, but it feels like either they were written years and years later, like chapters 1 through to 8 all feel very similar, and then the interlude in 9 feel like they're perhaps a lot like further on, and like someone had put it down and come back to it, but not really reviewed what they wrote.
To be fair, he hadn't really finished, so...
Yeah. And then, or they were picked up by somebody else, perhaps, someone with them, I don't know. That's just how it sort of feels to me. And I like that idea that kind of everybody's doing it, but she was in love with this guy, and did everybody else know that she was in love with him?
I don't think it was... Well, I don't know if they knew Philomena knew he was in love. She was in love with him, because most people didn't even know Philomena was a girl.
Yeah, so
that was one of the discoveries they made.
But were they making their own? So was Stryker and Philomena were having their own love letters? Is that right?
Well, see, that's the thing. Philomena was in love with Stryker, but it's not known if Stryker loved Philomena back for sure. And they discussed the fact that Eric and Jen discussed the fact that this book seems to be a love letter of regret to her, that he chose the S lifestyle and to do all of that over being with her.
Because I just wondered how it went with that theory that actually everybody in S contributed to this story in some way. That and that because I wondered for her point, because I remember Eric saying that she's determined that it is one person, that she only knows this one person. But I'm kind of going, what other, like, if all she was ever doing was translating stuff, and if everybody took on the persona, then how does she know? Like it's like
it matches the
unless
whole
you had other communications with. Yeah,
matches the whole concept of it being in different languages all the time to sort of hide things, that sort of stuff. I definitely took. Sorry, guys, my notes are a lot, but they're very hard to navigate. But I know I wrote down probably about halfway through. I had decided that one of the things I wanted with this reread was to figure out who I thought S was. Sorry, Stryker was. And about halfway through, I wrote down, that's it, I think I've decided I'm making the call. It wasn't written by one person, it was written by the collective of S. And whether that was by one book and they all wrote it together, or they each wrote a different book, because they talk about how the different books can be very different from each other that Stryker wrote. I was like, that's it. It's lots of different people. I changed my mind by the end.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Okay, so we're sitting here with bated breath.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because I have no clue. I couldn't even make a guess.
Because my first theory was it's everybody, and you're now coming back with it. I had that, but I've counted it. So I want to know what your counter is.
Okay, so I now believe, as did Jen and Eric at the end, that it was the striker who jumped off the bridge and killed himself.
The original, the boy from the factory.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was thinking, and that's what Philomena was hoping it was, but even though she still didn't end up with him. But that's what I was thinking. Probably, but I'm probably only thinking that because I can't think of any of the others being him.
Which
doesn't make sense. And I'm only up to chapter 8.
One of the websites I put on the discussion thread is actually a website that goes through each candidate, and it discusses the pros and cons for each side. I made my decision without reading that. I didn't feel like I needed it, but what I did like about it was that it helped me get straight in my head who were candidates, because that was the hardest freaking part.
Oh yeah,
thank you.
I think I said I ended up having to use a wiki because I keep referring like going, who is this? You know, who? What? There's more, and because they never have one name, like they're one thing in the book. Like in Ship of Theseus, they're called one thing, and then they've got another name. You know, like so you go like Corbeau and Durand, one person. So you're like, I'm not having to keep track of just like 5 names, but 10 freaking names. You know, it's just, it's
and like they keep talking about ones who are not really contenders, like the pirate dude, and you're like, I don't need headspace taken up with this.
What was it, the little girl and the ghost and then the spirit on the nun?
Yep. I'm just trying to find when I actually wrote it down. I think I did, because I think at that point there was some evidence that I was like, that's it. That's how I know who this. This is why I've made this decision. So I started making lots of notes, doing things like, okay, look, there's another mystery that needs to be solved. There's another mystery that needs to be solved. So yeah, that's why there's so many notes. Because most of my notes are not even like questions for discussion or anything. It's just my thoughts as I went through, saying, oh, this is what I think about this, and oh, now I think it's this person, sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense why you would do that.
Yeah,
Especially with this
I
book.
found when I was reading it, a lot of the time I had to just tell myself it was okay that I had no idea what was going on. So it's kind of like, keep on reading, just let go of the fact that you don't know what the hell's happening, and just keep reading.
Yeah, but Kirsten, I found it really hard because it's the organizer in me that needs to know where things are at. I need to have places for things. I mean, I've got a mild form of synesthesia with with dates, and I can sort of, the way I kind of put dates and years, like I see it, like I go, that's where that belongs, and that's where that belongs. That's something I can actually visualize where the years go, and work out how things work into place, and something with like a calendar within those. So for me, with something like this, I just like not knowing where I put it, like in my my synesthesia view of calendars and how I see time, because I see it. Yeah. This is awful. It's like
I would never recommend this book to anybody who works very linear. I don't think it would work in their head. You have to be able to just let go of that sort of control.
I don't mind it not being linear. That's why I'm fascinated with time, like time travel and stuff. That's why I loved Primer when we did Primer. Even though the film is just as a mind fuck, it was just like, actually when we got and talked about it was great. I love, how that can all work out, because you're still kind of understanding where, bits and pieces go, because you can place it. But with this, it's all happening at the same time, and you're trying to place it. Yeah, it's really hard. And I think it's interesting what you said, Kirsten, about having to let it wash over you. It's one of the reasons I don't like Twitter, because you have to let it just wash over you. And I'm not very good at that.
I don't Twitter either, actually.
Twitter drives me nuts. I'm like, I see these posts from people, and I'm like, what are you responding to? I can't even find what you're responding to. What are you talking about?
You just tap on it and then drag down, and it shows the one you're responding to.
I kind of reckon, unless you've got the time to be on it all day, Twitter's just like, oh, too much.
That's the thing with Twitter. I don't read everything, and I let things go. Like I don't if unless I'm particularly interested and want to go pursue and find out what it is, I'm like, nah, just scroll through, and I don't go back and read everything that happened beforehand.
Exactly. Mel. So that's why this book is also good for you, because you can let it wash over you.
Yeah.
I'm not that good at that.
But I also have a strong faith in the fact that social media, generally speaking, if it's something important, it'll repost it. It'll come up in my feed.
That's true. And I think it's also simply I think it's also simply the UI design of Twitter, that it's a very word-heavy thing, whereas I'm a visual person. So that's why I like Instagram. It's why Facebook kind of stuff appeals. It's actually why I don't mind Google Plus. It's very visual. So for me, I can kind of visually scan, oh, that looks interesting, or that's about that, without having to see all the words. I think it's a lot of reading. Anyway, we're getting off topic.
No, that's all right. The interesting thing is I actually consider myself very visual, but I'm quite happy to switch between photo visual or video visual to text visual just as much. But I consider myself very visual, because if people, like, if Nye tries to read something back to me and say, hey, how does that sound? I balk. I'm like, no, I have to actually read it. You can't read it out to me. Can't do
I struggle when people spells things to me. I know that you guys as teachers and educators, people spell things to me, I'm like, whoa, I don't know, my mind spazzes out. I don't know why.
Even kids at school, when they say, how do you spell this? I go, hang on, I have to write it down. Because I have to actually see the word to know whether I've spelled it right. So if the kid says, how do you spell something, I can't just spell out the letters to them. I have to actually write and look at it to tell whether I've spelled it correctly.
Yeah, and I'm not the only person who struggles with that, because I always think I must be such a lame-o that I can't handle letters. Like people go A, I, and I go, I can't like keep it all in my head.
I can't do it either. I can't spell in my head. I have to, but I think I was watching a spelling bee, like a little bit of the Australian spelling bee or whatever they did on TV. And there was a girl there, and she was doing this. She was writing it on her hand as she, before she said the letters.
That's me. I have to do that.
Because it's the same with directions.
Yeah. It's also actually interesting because I think that's how, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you're actually a teacher of little children, but that's how you kind of talk to read. You kind of learn your letters, but you actually learn to see words as you progress to be able to see the whole word. So then if it's right. You don't see it, you see the word. So, and you go, does that look right to me? It's not about it is a lot of that. Does it look right business?
But there's everybody's a little bit different too. Like some people are vocal and that's their strength and that's what they always sit in, and some people are physical. Like that girl who's writing on her hand, that might not have even actually been because of the visual. That could have been just she needs the physical activity of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like having to actually form the letters themselves. Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah. Anyway, so that's it's just interesting, Mel, that like what you're talking about Twitter. I know that's exactly how you should appreciate Twitter. I still find it really stressful.
I don't expect Twitter's for everybody, so yeah.
Yeah, but it's interesting in correlation with this book, that kind of thing of going, let the book wash over you. Because I know I would enjoy it a lot more if I could. It's just hard. The obsessive compulsive in me goes, no, I need to know where everything happens and put it into little boxes.
Like I got to the end of this the second time, and I realised that while I had for myself solved what I think is the big mystery of this, which is who is Striker, Jen and Eric's story is pretty straightforward. Like you pretty much get allusions to everything, and you've got that sort of nutted down. That's not a problem. So it's really just little mysteries along the way as to what's going on in terms of S as a community around Striker, and some of the allusions I think in the book, like what the friggin' hell is the monkey supposed to represent? For God's frickin' sake!
I think I just passed him in the goes. Yeah, there's always a monkey.
The monkey keeps coming back. Jen and Eric keep talking about the monkey, but what the freaking hell is the monkey meant to represent?
No idea.
I'm so glad it wasn't just me.
I just ignored the monkey after a while.
Yeah, but like I've got several notes along the way where I'm like, freaking monkey. Even though I wasn't even reading Ship of Theseus that time, I was still doing it. Anyway, so I basically made up my mind on page 282, 283. But they actually talk about some evidence, and they also talk about the fact that there's no way to definitively prove what they believe.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem, right? Because behind any of this, even Moody's evidence, even though it is actually Summersby, it's a recording of Summersby saying, "I am Straka," even that evidence has been refuted by lots of different other evidence around the place. So the thing is that any solution that's out there can be disputed for different reasons.
There's not enough evidence to prove any of them.
No, that's it. Which is why originally I was fully on board with the whole idea of it's all of them, because that makes sense under the circumstances, right? The evidence of the books themselves suggests that, but I can't remember what it was. I'm sorry. I finished this with the intention of being ready for the original time for the hangout. And
sorry, we're so crap. We still didn't finish.
No. It just means that I'm like, oh God, it's not all so straight in my head as it was a few weeks ago. But I had, like, the evidence that Eric and Jen had found made me completely agree with them by the end that it was the original Straka that was from the factory and had killed himself.
Or tried to and got saved.
Tried to kill himself, yeah.
He tried to, or faked it, or whatever it was. It had to do with the fact, remember they kept talking about, and you may not, I don't know how in-depth you might have seen this bit, but they were talking about the fact that there was, right after immediately of that event, a whole heap of S members were in that city at a motel, and they had, and Guest was staying with them.
Right.
I do remember the Anne Guest thing.
Yeah, so this was just another mystery, but they tied that back.
And they used their bird names, didn't they?
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
But these are like, I just wasn't interested in spending that much time solving the mystery. Like, if I was really into this, I would have gone through and figured out which birds were represented by which characters in the book of Ship and Theseus and blah 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 blah. I just didn't care enough. Because I'm with you, Kirsten. I personally think what really made this story fly and be interesting and engaging long enough was the romance.
Yeah. If it hadn't had that, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much.
No.
Well, they basically have a parallel. Their parallel is with Straka and Philomena.
Yeah, and they refer to that constantly. So,
So there was a bit, and I didn't make a note, but there's a bit where, is it Eric or is it? Anyway, someone has a photo, and they said, see enclosed photo of the group. And I don't think I had that.
Well, there is no photo.
I don't think we have that. Yeah.
I was just checking the S-Files website just to see. It's got a list, the sfiles22.blogspot.com.au one. There's a section called Inserts, and it just tells you all the inserts you get and what page they are. It's got photos.
This is the only photo of one of them,
which is
Philomena.
Yeah, no, I've got that one. It was about 4 pages, maybe 10 pages before that. They refer to a photo of the group, and it wasn't there.
Yeah,
no,
this is the only one. And technically, Philomena is not actually part of S, so it doesn't.
Yeah. And then the other one that, and I presume it didn't get put in because it would show Eric, but it says see the Pronghorn Java, page 5.
Yeah, that wasn't in there as well.
I just double checked. That was my question, is just to double check whether they were in there or not. I didn't think it was.
There was one.
That's what I was thinking as well.
There was one pronghorn thing, but I don't think that was the one because it was actually the cover page.
No, it was the flood, I think.
That was the flood, and it was the front page, and it was when she was trying to figure out about him. There it is.
Yeah, I've got that one. Yeah.
And then I did think I was missing bits as well when I saw those things. I'm like, it's not here. It's not here. Is it supposed to? I
know. I was like, did I fall out?
That's how I found the S22 files originally, was because I wanted to check that I wasn't missing anything. So
that's good.
I was so worried I was going to get spoiled. Little did I realise that nobody has the answers. Oh dear. Anything else that you guys wanted to know before?
What happens with Moody? Because he keeps putting up S's and asking Thingy to call him. Eric to call him.
I'm trying to remember. I don't think anything really happens. There's some sort of struggle that happens at the what do you call it, where they have the stars up on the thing? They do it in America. Planetarium. So they meet up at the planetarium, and there's some sort of struggle, and it's pretty much immediately after that they leave town and go to Europe.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it happens around that. Whether that's Moody or whether that's the US, I don't actually remember.
Right.
But
and then
I remember what it was. Sorry, I remember. It's the recording. So Moody had the recording, but he did not have the recording because the recording was given to Eric. And so when Moody contacted the person who originally owned it to get permission to publish with that evidence, they said, well, I gave that evidence to Eric, you don't have permission. So Moody contacted Eric trying to get him and to say, I will give you credit for my work if you just say yes, that it's okay for me to publish it.
Right.
But Eric, of course, doesn't want him to publish it with his name on it because he doesn't believe that he's right.
Yeah.
So, and also does not want to be involved with Moody. So
yeah, because Moody, from what I can understand with Moody was being a bit of a dick from what I can tell, and Eric ended up having a meltdown at him, unfortunately, in a very public place, and then ended up spending some time.
Institutionalized?
Yeah, I don't want to say that, but yeah, I guess so.
It's not actually what happened, but
yeah, but just having some.
Sorry?
He says in the hospital throughout the book.
Yeah, he basically goes into a clinic to get some help by the sounds of things. Is there any more? Does it allude to what they argue about at all?
They argue about the fact that so what's the chick's name that's working with Moody? Elsa basically, because he and Elsa were having a kind of relationship. She stole the recording from Eric and gave it to Moody.
Oh, so it was Elsa who did it.
The breakdown.
Now, from what I can tell, does Ilsa fail Jen, or is she kind of on her own? Because I kind of get the sense that Moody must have done a number on her too, right? She doesn't seem to be Moody's.
No, she's not complete. She starts off seeming like Moody's henchman, but that sort of starts to change towards the end, and you're sort of what's actually going on there? That's never, I don't think, really made clear, or at least I don't remember anything that makes that clear. But I'm pretty sure that Jen passes in the end.
Cool.
Because the last bit I read, she actually got a C- or something. So
and I think there was some discussion about the fact that she wasn't going to be there for graduation.
Yeah. What did her parents want?
Her parents had been called by her ex and told that she was involved in a dangerous relationship, Eric, and
how does anyone know that though? Because they were kind of keeping it on the down low.
But this was at the point in time when they'd actually started meeting at the movie theatre.
Okay.
And she was isolating herself from her friends. She wasn't behaving the way she used to be. And so he was getting all of this information from people who were their friends, and he was interpreting it. Plus, remember, he'd also reached out to her trying to get back together and things along those lines, and that hadn't worked for him.
He basically broke up with her in email, which is bad form anyway, but...
email on spring break, wasn't it?
He was an asshole, yeah. I was going, wow, you don't deserve anything. Okay, so that explains that, right. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that's pretty much that thing. I actually think Eric's a bit of an asshole at the point where she tells the story about herself.
What
what actually happened at the park?
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? That whole bit, just exactly that whole thing. I was just going, that's what gets me so not rolled up, but we have created that culture, and I was reading that going. Yeah, that whole kind of thing of that, she's 7 or 8, and that, when I was 7 or 8, it wouldn't have been a problem going off and checking out the woods and, doing that, because I would walk through the town belts, which is this big wooded area on the way home. I did that from the age of 6. The only dangerous thing that ever really happened was someone's fence collapsed and their dog got out and bit a friend of mine and nearly got me until my bag hit it on the nose. Now that's scary, and don't get me wrong, that is scary. That could happen anywhere on any suburban street.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I was just like, that bit resonated with me, and it kind of, I guess for me, kind of helped cement my commitment again that I want Luna to be able to walk to and from school and learn to assess risk and not feel like she's being, helicopter parented. Because I felt so bad for her, because it's exactly those. I've had those moments myself where I've had lovely times just being, somewhere as a child, and I was thinking about it and going, wow.
You haven't read yet, have you?
That's which bit? Her park episode?
This is the letter of what actually happens in the park.
Oh, is it not actually what she says?
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Damn you!
Sorry. I didn't realise it was so close to the end. I was like,
It's like 300 and something or close to 400. Yeah, close to 400.
So, sorry, guys.
4 days.
I'm almost to it then. I'm only about 20 pages away.
I won't tell you what actually happens, but what I will tell you is that she gave a not full version of what actually happened at the park, and Eric gets a little bit shitty.
Now, does she put this?
That's what he gets shitty about.
After.
Yeah.
Is this after they've been to the park? Because she takes him to the park, doesn't she?
Yeah, she takes him to the park. This happens during the purple and red phase.
Yeah, but does she give him this after they've been to the
park at that point? Yes.
Okay, then I understand why. Because she's also even, I was sort of scanning things, she was alluding to things like going, I was thinking about where those birds were and all that kind of stuff.
So her enjoyment of the park and what happened at that point is true. It's just there's more to what happened, especially around the fact that there was panic and police involved and all of these sorts of things.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm reading it 4 days. Yeah, look, completely understand parents.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 2 hours. I was like,
this is why I was like, okay, you clearly haven't read this bit.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just like helicopter parenting for 2 hours.
This particular part of the story is not what I'm referring to, though. What I'm actually shitty at is Eric's reaction, where he has a bad reaction to the fact that she didn't tell him the truth. And I'm like, hang on a tick, she told you about that story. She's never told anybody ever the truth of what happened. And she told him that story when they first met. Like, it was really early on in their relationship.
But hadn't he already told her about the uncle situation?
No, because that had been referred to, but it was all older text. So
I thought she
told her story first, but she told her version of the story first.
Right.
So I just wanted to point out the fact that Eric can be a little bit shit.
I have been reading those comments going, is he being an asshole here? Is he overreacting to something he probably shouldn't be overreacting to? And basically, yes, okay.
Well, in my opinion, like, I actually wrote a note where I was like, Eric, you're shit.
Like, which comment? Like, okay.
Sorry.
Okay? God.
Yep. Oh, okay.
What's those bits in?
I wish I'd reread this again before this hangout.
I'm thinking the same thing, but you reread it a lot more recently than I did.
Have you read that letter? Have you read that letter already, Kim?
That letter that Mel had. No, I haven't. Look at this.
Okay.
Isn't that comfy?
Oh.
He just falls asleep like that all the time. And then he falls off my lap and wonders what happened.
What's their names again?
This is Tombo. Tombo and Kiki.
Tombo and
Thought I went Kiki.
Right. Yes. Oh. My boy's over there. Where is he? Oh, I'm over there. Can you see him past the nappy washing?
That's cute. Look, floppy cat.
Where did you get them, Kim?
Animal Welfare League.
Oh, and did they come as a pair, or did you just kind of go?
Yeah, they were in together. They're different ages though. He's 2 and she's 1. I don't know if they were together when they went in.
but they like each other.
Yep. Although he's a bit of a bully when he plays sometimes. But she, jumps around him and over him, and if he doesn't want to play, he just ignores her. So
he's just like, he looks like a stuffed toy on your lap.
I know he is. You're just plonking in your arms like a baby half the time. He's not.
My baby does not like sit like that.
No, still.
Got to support his head or he rolls off. They had to go to the vet today, and then they didn't hate me when they came back. They're just like, "Where's the food now? We're home. Where's the food? What did you do?"
It's amazing how much treats and food just fix everything.
Yeah.
Oh dear. What do you guys think about Eric trusting the funding that he was getting?
Well, he took that funding in the blue bit, right, before it all kind of got.
It was very early on.
Yeah, it was very early on. Yeah.
And everybody else had funding, from what I could tell. Like Moody had funding. What made it? Because and I have to go back and reread it. But wasn't it this guy? I've forgotten his name. Was it his death that kind of set off the whole?
The funding, like whether it came from that.
Like the funding, and I was like, okay, he got funding. Well, there's lots of other people who seem to get funding, so fair enough. I would be asking more questions just because I'm that kind of person. But wasn't this like some mentor? And I've kind of haven't read all those bits. And wasn't that the funeral he had to go to in Paris or something?
Yeah, but he used the funding to go to that.
Yeah, but wasn't the death kind of suspicious? And that's what kind of kicked off.
Well, you guys probably have you gotten to the point where you know about the daughter?
Which daughter?
So there's a child. And one of the things that the S group did was they protect and hid this child.
Nope, didn't know about that.
This guy married her. So, yeah, and basically two of the S members, one of them being Straka, I can't remember if the other one was Summersby or not, but they figured out that there was a daughter, and she was orphaned because the parents died, and so the S members were taking care of her but hiding her so that she couldn't be killed. And so that's one of the reasons why all the S activities died down, because they focused in on taking care of this child instead of actually doing all of their other activities.
So why did she need to be hidden? Was she?
I'm trying to remember that bit.
Was it part of the Calais disaster?
It was the daughter of two of the S members, I think. And
Durand and the other guy?
I'm trying to remember. Honestly, there's so many freaking names, and it's so weird. Why couldn't they just be called Tom? Come on, I can remember that. It was almost all last names that I couldn't pronounce or anything. But yeah, so basically when she grew up, she married this guy, but he didn't know who she was, and he was already a Straka scholar. So he didn't even really know who she was, and Eric and Jen figure out this connection and everything, and so that's one of the mysteries that they solve. Because in Ship of Theseus, the bit where he goes and he's in the little canoe with the family, with the baby.
Yeah.
That's basically the part.
That baby is supposed to be her.
So he's doing that.
Yep, I'm way too stupid for this book. I could not get any of that.
No. They spell it out in the margin notes. The problem is that you forget it because there's so much going on. So this book is meant to be read more than once. You cannot read it once and get everything. You just can't. I've read it twice and I don't feel like I've got it all. It's not meant to be read once. The difference is I don't think you need to reread Ship of Theseus. It's far too dry and boring to reread. Just reread the margin notes. They cover the important points. They're right next to the important points of Ship of Theseus, so you can read it if you want to. And just read the margin notes.
Yeah.
Much more interesting that way too.
Actually, something you said, Sarah, I meant to mention before and I forgot. You said about you know, like this guy is supposed to be this amazing writer. And I kind of got this impression that maybe he wasn't actually this amazing writer, that they, you know, these guys are just obsessed with him, and so they think he's amazing.
Yeah.
And all these people that are obsessed with this whole
Because of the mystery, do you think?
he's amazing, but really he's actually not that great a writer after all.
He's that 20-year-old kid who was hanging out with amazing writers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that mystery makes things more interesting.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh. Answer for what's in the bag? I don't know about you guys, but did anybody ever figure out how the hell you're supposed to use this thing?
Nope, I didn't even try.
No.
I thought that was to do with the footnotes, and I was like, okay, you're supposed to be able to decode the last footnote that they didn't work out the code for. It's got something to do with that, and apparently there was a website, I think maybe you posted it,
Yeah, there's a few of them. I posted about 6 different
saying
things
about, you know, how you can actually decode this and that, and I just went, yeah, not doing that.
One of the links I posted actually takes you to what Eric and Jen believe is actually the original text for Chapter 10.
Right.
That Jen posted on her Tumblr. So, like, you know how, like, with Lizzie Bennet Diaries, there's multimedia going on as well as the story itself? That's how this book works. There's a whole heap of websites out there which have been created by mysterious people that nobody knows who they are. And one of them is quite obvious. It's Jen's Tumblr.
Right.
And
there is a bit where she talks about, it's in the bit I just read where she says, you know, I can't believe I was so stupid, you know, I was making phone calls and posting on social media and sending emails. So I do remember seeing that.
Yeah. So, yeah. And in that Tumblr you can find a different version of Chapter 10. Unfortunately, I kept meaning to read it and I never got to it. But I must admit, I think that might be because Ship of Theseus is shit boring and I don't care. If it had more margin notes, it might have been more interesting. There's also another link I posted, which is a series of tweets between Eric and Jen.
Oh.
So it's a story fight of that. And, yeah, there's just a few things along those lines that you can find in amongst all of that.
Excuse me.
But, yeah, there's a lot of things that are really unresolved, and I'm not even sure that there actually is a solution in amongst these. What I thought was the most fascinating is that they had mystery combinations with clues, so you could go and find copies of the books.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. There was, like, so many copies and, yeah.
Yeah, and they released clues so that people could go find them. But they're all in the US, and I was like, freaking US-centric.
Yeah, grumble, absolutely.
So, yeah. But it doesn't matter anyway. They were all done a year ago, so it's not like we could have got them. But, yeah. I think there was 5 of them. Trying to think. Is there anything you guys want to talk about with Jen and Eric's relationship?
He strikes me as definitely untrusted. Like, I know that you thought he became a bit of a dick, but
I don't think he stayed that way. I just think, like most guys, he could be a dick when he, you know.
Yeah, but I also think he was really untrusting. Like, I think he was taking a risk with the whole margin chatting right from the beginning. Like, you can tell.
Yeah.
I think he's a bit of a loner. Always has been. He put trust in Moody, and Moody was a dick to him.
Well, I think even more than that, he put trust in Ilsa. And
Ilsa betrayed him as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of not too surprised by it all. I have to say, I did love the postcards, the birders stuff.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah, they were good. And I knew, I was like, okay, he's going to Brazil and he's going to find her, and it was just these great little things I thought were fantastic. You know.
And it was so sad when Philomena died.
I saw that kind of, but she's really old.
Sorry,
Yeah.
you guys haven't finished.
But I'm also like, you know,
she did.
she's really old. I did see it saying, you know, she said this before she died or something. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I did see
I
it
think it
somewhere.
alluded to it, but didn't bring it up in any detail.
Cool.
But I thought it was cool. Yeah. And I also, the only thing I wasn't sure was when it said fellow birders, I didn't know at that point whether, because I hadn't read the margin things, whether Ilsa had come back on site or something or not. And that's why I just wasn't sure. It's like, that's why I was asking, because I thought, did she come back on, you know, did she?
I think it was just a red herring to try and throw people off if they read it.
Yeah, because he was sending it to the cafe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And the steam tunnels, but I mean, how Goonies.
Yeah. I must admit though, I'm like, I wouldn't be walking through those steam tunnels.
I don't know. It must be a thing in the States. Like I was listening to Imaginary Worlds, which I've talked about with you, Mel. I think it's a really great podcast. And he was talking. Eric, the guy's called Eric, and that too. Was checking out D&D. Had never played it, and realised it was something that probably he missed from his childhood. And he was saying that there was a film. Because I remember hearing this when I was a young'un, that there was it was like Satan worshipping or was connected to the devil. Like this, you know, I know it's not now, but that was something I heard when I was like 5, 6, 7. And that all came apparently from some kid who happened to really love D&D and then started like skulking out in the steam tunnels and committed suicide. And then they made a film with Tom Hanks, a very young Tom Hanks in it. And so this is the whole thing.
Something that was talked about in Ready Player One.
Yeah. And I think that's and I'm just going, is this a big thing in the States? I mean, maybe it is because you know, they live in really cold places with snow, and I got the sense that that's where what's PSU? Is that Pronghorn State University or something?
Yeah.
I got the sense it was somewhere that had snow, and I just wonder, is that something that happens, that they build, you know, big boiler rooms, because you hear about those too, to carry the heat around. Yeah. When I was New Zealand, that would have been great if we'd had that, because it was fucking cold at school.
When I stayed in New York, that's how your heating worked. You didn't the heater that was in your room didn't actually provide the heating, but by turning it on, you actually accessed the heating that was in the basement of the building, and it all came up through pipes.
Yeah. Because in London, that's not how it works at all. You have radiators, but you have like a gas unit, like the same thing you've got on your you do all your hot water goes, you know, instant hot water. Well, there's a continual thing where it basically the radiator loops in and goes through it, and you set your temperature on there, and it just feeds the water through all the radiators are connected in the house or apartment. So again, that would have been great, because you know, we didn't have to pay for it. But yeah, I remember that in New York too. Yeah, that whole thing of.
I think they call it the boiler room underneath.
Yeah. I never understood how people pay for that. You know, like in
it'll probably be included in like your body corporate type.
Yeah, I was going to say the big part of the
pay
cost.
some kind of fee that. Yeah.
Same as like if you're in apartment buildings, if you're renting in an apartment building, you don't pay for the water individually. It just gets lumped into your rent. Everybody's thinking about the fact that you pay for water.
No, because I paid excess on the water. So when we've rented a house before this one, and we would receive the water bill. Now the owners paid the standard water rate, and then the actual water that we used, we'd get sent the bill for. So, but you're right. I don't think that ever happened when I was in an apartment block. But
no, in the apartments, you don't get any water bill.
So if you rent in an apartment, it's included in your rent because it's part of the strata. Is that what you're saying? And the strata
I don't know the exact ruling about how it works, but I know when I was in an apartment, and also when I was in a townhouse, interestingly enough. I don't know, maybe it's because they can't track the water between the different...
They can't measure between the apartments. They haven't got any kind of device that will measure the water.
Yeah.
That'd be why. Well, even my mum was in a retirement village, and I think they've fixed it. It's not like that anymore. But when she first moved in, she would get she would still get her own water bill, but they couldn't tell her how much she'd used, so they would go by how much the entire retirement village had used, and then like shared out. And because she used to always be really pissed off that she was like, well, I live by myself. I know, but she doesn't really water the lawn. She hardly uses any water, and she was getting, hers was, you know, like just an average of what everybody in the whole complex was using. And some people had more than, like, some people were couples living in houses and were using more water, and I think she did say when they actually fixed it, her bill was like half as much when they fixed it and finally actually started calculating everybody's individually.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so that was a deviation. I was just fascinated about steam tunnels, and it seems to be a thing, you know, like going into the steam tunnels, you know, very Goonies.
So guys, sorry, I finally figured out my notes and what I was trying to say about who Striker is. Finally decoded what I was saying. God, why couldn't I just spell it out? My conclusion was that I can't say his name, Vaclav, the guy who jumped, was a figurehead for S as a group, writing it together. So they were all writing it, but he was used as a figurehead to represent Striker.
Okay.
But that was just my personal theory. Jen and Eric's theory was that he was actually just Striker. But that page 282 and 283 was when I made that decision. So for me, that's when everything slotted in together to say, I don't think that he's his own man. I think maybe S is sort of representing him. Sorry, to take us off track. No, back on track. Whatever.
Yeah, I was back on track, I think.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'm really wishing I'd reread at least the margin notes before coming to this, because, oh man, I can't believe how much I've forgotten.
In all honesty, the margin notes didn't take very long, because, you know, if you think about it, this book is...
I just lost Mel there.
I lost Mel too. If you think about it, this book is, and I was like, what? What is it?
And then I went, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I got, yeah.
And now she's frozen.
Hello. I'm back. Hello.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
Good. You guys all frozen me, and I was like, I'm just talking the air.
No, you frozen us.
Yeah, well, I knew I'd frozen on you because you guys had all frozen together on me, so it was definitely me who'd frozen. You know? Anyway, what was I even saying? God. Oh, fuck.
I think we got as much as something like this book is.
Oh, 3 books. It's 3 books. Because technically it's Ship of Theseus, it's a margin notes, and the footnotes from Philomena are their own thing too.
Yeah. I found the footnotes really hard to get through too.
Well,
I gave up on them once Mel told me I could, so I was like, yay! I don't have to worry about them because...
I mean, some were dead boring and others were quite funny.
And a lot of them were just red
being jealous.
Like, if you read the margin notes, they basically say, this stuff is not even true. She's just making things up.
Yeah.
So reading them does nothing for you unless you want to solve the clues.
Yeah, which I gave up on pretty early on.
Yeah, because unless you're willing to really pay attention, like, for example, one of them, it was that there was a tiny little dot under the letters that you had to connect.
And that came up a couple of times.
Yeah, and who wants to actually pour through each one and try and find them?
I've got a couple of quick questions. What does CF mean? Does it mean compared to?
Oh, the CF symbol.
Yeah, I looked it up on...
Look that up.
I
Does it
looked it
mean-
up on Wikipedia. It pretty much is. I think it is compared to or something like that.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
in reference to,
In my
or
Google
something.
Reference to or
Yeah, or
something.
compare
I
and
went.
contrast.
I
or something.
poured through shorthand notes. I poured through.
Compare. Yeah, compare.
Yeah. You tell me you actually found it because I looked all over.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
I think I
cystic
found
fibrosis
it, but I
kept
was
coming
just
up,
like,
but
I better
CF
check
is
with
on
you guys.
Wikipedia.
Ah.
It
Because
says
you-
the abbreviation
Cool.
CF derives from the Latin verb confer, fair, while in English it is commonly read as compare. The abbreviation advises readers to consult other material, usually for the purpose of drawing a
I mean, like, reading it, you kind of understood what they were trying to say there, but
Yeah.
I was just like, I've never seen this symbol.
Never seen it. Yeah, I'd never
No.
seen
Okay,
it.
good, because I thought it was just me, and that's what I was saying. I think it's compare. I found the thing that said it was compare, but I just want to check that that's what you guys thought, because I was like,
Kim,
I was wrong. I was like,
seriously, serious props to you on finding that. I set Nye on that one because I was like, I can't find it, and Nye
Yeah.
is like
Came
a
up in the
Google
first
master.
page of my Google results on my mobile.
What the freaking hell?
Maybe no, second page. Sorry, second page on my Google results on my mobile because the first one was all cystic fibrosis.
yeah,
So
I think I said
all I can
CF.
think is I searched for it wrong because it was a symbol and I was going for a symbol rather than actually just writing CF.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wrote CF.
Yeah, see, I was
Yeah,
going,
there you
okay,
go.
it's a symbol.
CF in literature is what I put, which in the first thing I got, the abbreviation, and that's the first result. CF in literature, writes in the Latin verb
Well, the
confer.
reason I wrote it, reason I wrote it as wrote it as CF is because earlier in some of his notes where he was younger and he read lead pencil because he was running in capitals, he wrote CF, and it didn't look like a symbol. So
Yeah.
Oh, well done. No, because I went full on shorthand type stuff. I was looking through pages of symbols and trying to find.
And I just sat there in my lunch break today and went CF. Nothing on that page. Oh, there it is.
Just the tiniest little bit of I hate you right now. That was 2 nights of me pouring through web pages trying to find it.
So is that the last note? Because that seemed lovely.
Yeah, that's the last note.
I love
thought
that,
was
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, but okay, so what does it mean that the OK got struck out?
Oh no, I didn't look at that.
What does that mean?
Don't say things like that. I like to end it with a pretty happy, nice.
I didn't think about it either until I read one of the websites where they questioned it. I was like, no, you bastards.
Mm.
The one thing I wanted out of this was just happily ever after for Eric and Jen.
Especially because I thought that was sort of the point that they were going, okay, well, don't stuff up the way that Philomena and Straka did. You know.
Look, in all honesty, I personally believe that it means nothing. I just it's just there.
But does anything in that book mean nothing?
Well, I'm going to presume that it does because I can and just ignore things.
How about this? She wrote okay and then, oh no, because it's her who wrote it. Maybe he wrote okay and went, no, instead of writing it, I'll go do it. There
That's
we go.
kind of what
Cross it off and
I
go do
mind
it.
him. That's the end of this. That's the end. Yeah, because he hasn't crossed anything. Well, that's why I took. Hey, come in here and say, and he wrote okay, and then it went okay, and actually strike through. That's the end of that. We're now all conversations are.
Love the fact that at the end they're literally just walking past each other and writing notes in the book.
Yes. Yeah. It's like they keep meeting, but they're still writing notes all in the book.
Yeah. It's just like this is how we communicate. This is the memoriam of the start of our relationship, and it's like thank you for not leaving us out of your relationship.
Was it something like the scrapbook of our relationship? And I think, did he write that? And she's like, that's so lame. And he goes, okay, forget I said that, or whatever it was.
But I have to give full props to the author, who's actually the guy, not J.J. Abrams, but Doug Dawson, the guy who actually wrote it. All props to him. The communication and the way that he manages with this form of communication to communicate their personal humour, their little, insights and feelings without having to really spell a lot of things out. I think it's beautiful. Because that's a new thing, right? We do it all the time ourselves, but writing it for someone else is a different thing.
Yeah.
Because there's a
And
difference.
making it seem realistic.
Yeah, exactly. Like making it seem realistic. Like if I think about trying to recreate someone's conversations through tweets or SMSs and things along those lines, that's a hard job to do. I've read a few stories that either do that or something like it, and they often don't come across as realistic. And this did, I felt like, even though I know that it was a suspension of belief that they're actually, you know, flicking through the pages, finding each other's conversations and continuing it. I know that there was a suspension of belief behind that, but the conversations itself, I never felt like it was stilted or weird that they said that.
Yeah. And it was two clear voices too.
Although maybe that was helped by the handwriting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe to me that's part of what makes it beautiful, is that it's got that, like, that level of detail. Like, come on, the library sticker is half coming off.
Yeah.
God, I love this book.
Although, if it was a real library book, it'd be contacted.
True.
Well, this is like a really old copy, so it's like they still use the date stamp in the back.
But like,
Or
even
very
that detail, come on, they've got actual stamp, and not only do they have them there, but they're like over the top of each other the way they would have been and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't read this little thing in the back that says, "Keep this book clean. Borrowers finding this book pencil marked, written upon, mutilated, or unwarrantably defaced are expected to report it to the librarian."
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, by that point he'd stolen it for his own, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the last one, he stole it in 2000, so
yeah.
that is 15 years ago. So it is
So pretty
possible
much-
they were still using stamps in some libraries.
Yeah. And like all the pencil notes, I actually found the pencil notes the most frustrating because you had no idea at what point in time, apart from being pre-gen, that he'd done them.
Yeah. And they did seem a lot more all over the place than the others. Yeah.
Yeah, and he did say he was 16 when he started, and what was he in this book, 28?
Exactly, it's more than
Running
10
into
years.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like, but I also felt like it was well done in that you could tell, not only because of the way he dismissed himself at those times, but you could just tell by the way he was doing it. Sometimes he was a bit young, but at the other times I was like, seriously, if you were 16 when you wrote that, you're a weird 16-year-old.
But don't forget what had happened when he was 16. Wasn't that when the yacht stuff had happened?
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was a weird 16-year-old because he'd had such shitty things happen.
No, see, even then, like, I've worked with teenagers who have gone through a lot of trauma and things along those lines, both, you know, in a lot of different ways. Honestly, this is not a direction any of them went. Now, that could be just the demographic I was dealing with too, so I shouldn't judge
But
or
he was
anything.
having mental depression issues before he got on that boat too, and that was the whole problem, that he was having issues on the boat. His uncle didn't help them by telling him how crap everything was, so he started going through an episode and then asked to be put on land, and
This became his
and then
focus.
in the
I
fact when he
get that.
bought
It's
the
just
movie-
that's not many 16-year-olds have academic insight just because they're depressed. That's what I'm sort of referring to. It's not so much that he's a strange boy. It's more the fact that his strangeness manifested in academia and focus in academia. That's what's strange to me. I'm like, being strange at 16, God, almost all of us were. It's the type of strange that he took up that I'm sort of like, dude. Like, I'm not saying there aren't any 16-year-olds out there who are really academic, but most of them do it by reproducing academia that's already in existence, not by themselves.
Hey guys, I have to go because I have to go to bed. Have nice chats. Thanks
I have
for
to go
tuning
and make
in.
coffee.
I'll go and do more reading. Bye everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
It's good.
I think I might head off too, because otherwise I'll get to bed too late if I've got to make cupcake icing.
Fair enough. Get some sleep.
But
enjoy your Melbourne cup.
Yeah, oh no, it's not really. It's like a luncheon thing at lunchtime, but you don't have to have any time off work. But they said bring a plate, so I'm bringing a plate. I'm hoping that something else on there I can actually eat. Otherwise, I'm having cupcakes for lunch. 'Cause there's a lot of stuff I'm not allowed to eat.
There's because you're pregnant.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the problem with those sorts of things where people are just told to bring a plate. It's like, oh, let's hope that not everybody does dessert.
Yeah. That's a good point. But yeah, well. And it's like, cold meat sandwiches and all the stuff that'd be easy to do. I won't be able to have, so I probably should make myself a sandwich and pack that just in case.
Someone will do a hummus dish.
You would think so.
Almost everyone. Someone does like the bowl with the hummus and the bread bowl thing.
No,
Pretty
something
typical.
will be.
Either that, or you just have to have a toilet that goes past a fast food restaurant or something delicious.
Yeah, we don't get long enough lunch breaks for that.
I got lucky. The school I went to today provided lunch.
Nice.
Oh, lovely.
It was their staff day, so that's one of the best things about my job. Almost always I'm there on a school staff day, so I get fed all the time.
Nice. Alrighty, good night, everybody.
Good luck with your
night.
Night.
Bye.
Look, he's still...
Oh, Tombo, you are so pathetic.
You are, aren't you? He's just snoring away.
So cute. You're making me want a cat so bad.
I don't think the pugs would appreciate it. I think they'd be very jealous.
It's not actually even a jealousy issue. It's a safety issue for them because, if we got a cat and the cat was playful and swiped at their eyes, they're so exposed in the eyes. It's just
they are, aren't they? Little things.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's heaps of people out there that have both together, but I'm just like, I'm not willing to take that risk.
Yeah. If the pugs get too playful and they just sort of cats just sort of do it as a defense to go back off. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not the cat's fault. It's just what happens. Oh God, that is so much of the baby.
Aren't you? You are. Yeah. He was trying to.
Tumbo. Where's Kiki?
Oh yeah, because he's I don't know where she is, but he's the lap cat. He likes he likes to sit and cuddle in your lap, and she likes to run around.
Okay.
Be kittenish.
I thought she's younger. Yeah, if she's younger, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I took him to the vet today, and when I came out of the clinic consult room, Dad took, because Dad dropped me off there, Dad put Kiki in the back of the car and came back for Tombo. By then, Tombo had escaped the cardboard box twice.
Oh!
I'm really going to have to get a real cat carrier because I've just got the cardboard boxes,
the little
cat carriers from the AWL. So he pulled it open twice from the top by getting his paw in there and pulling it out. I'm like, stop it, I'm trying to pay for your very expensive shots.
You definitely need to invest in the full-on cat carriers.
Yeah. I just figured for this one trip it would be fine. But yeah he's going to destroy it.
You can get the collapsible type that are fabric.
Yeah, even like Browsing around the corner sells them for like $25 or something. They're not that expensive. One of the guys who was there had one.
I think the biggest problem with cat carriers is the space they take up. They can take up a lot of room, especially when you need two of them, because you will.
Yep. And the other big thing is if they don't have a removable top, it's impossible to get a cat out that doesn't want to come out.
Yeah. Not without doing damage to yourself.
Yes, yeah. They were pretty good. She was a bit scared, but he just wanted to wander around. So I had to stop her from falling backwards off of the table, from walking backwards towards me, and stop him from jumping off forwards.
I must admit, pugs are pretty easy at the vet.
Yeah. Most dogs are pretty generally easy.
Yeah. Even when they don't like it and they're really upset, they're really not that hard when it comes to the vet and things like that. Cats are a bit more wily when it comes to fighting. They have less bones.
Yeah. Well, they didn't try to scratch. Well, he stuck a little the little ear thing. I forgot what it's called. The little ear thing down his ear to look in his ears, and he didn't quite like that. He was trying to scratch. He must have made his ear itchy because he was trying to scratch. But otherwise, they just stood there. They weren't terribly happy about it, but they stood there. and
That's
didn't
alright.
flinch at their shots. The shots they didn't even feel. So they were fine.
Oh, yeah. I've never had a dog or a cat really mind the shots so much. It's always the other things like thermometers up their bum.
Yep. And they'll like go to feel their organs to see if they're all right, and they're kind of like, I'll just arch as far away from you as possible.
Well, I would too, in all honesty. So. Oh,
Yeah,
so
but it's funny
gorgeous.
because I took her out first, and she's tiny. She's, well, not half the weight, but she's only 2 point some high twos, just under 3, and he's almost 5 kilos. And I put her out first, and because they're in the boxes, you can't see them.
Yeah.
And then he turned around and he was checking some things and writing some things down, and I got him out, and he turns around and he's like, oh, like twice the size of her.
But she's still young. She's got some growing to do into her body.
Oh, she may not grow much because she's a girl, but I know.
Oh yeah, but like, and she's a different style of cat too. Like, yeah. But
he's a big, fluffy, giant cat.
But that's what I love. I love the big fluffy ones. Like, you know, the American cats. Their stock standard cat is so much bigger than our basic cats.
Yeah.
When I was in New York, we went into a pet shop and they had all of the rescue cats up in the wall in the cages and things. And I was just like, I would take any one of you home. In Australia, to get that style of cat, it would be a specialised cat that you'd pay thousands of dollars for. And my friends like,
they just breed them big.
Yeah. But, like, my friend's like, but they're just ordinary cats. I'm like, you don't understand. Our ordinary cats are these sleek, almost furless. They're not fuzzy and soft and big and heavy or anything. They're light and they're
I have to say, it is quite uncommon to find a medium or a long. Don't find long-haired cats because they're pretty much just ragdolls and they're usually breeder ones. But to find a medium-haired cat, you don't find too many medium-haired cats, and somehow they always seem to be boys.
Yes, yeah. I got myself a black cat when I was in Tamworth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And he was lovely. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of just getting one.
Yes.
And I was living by myself like you were, and that was just a big mistake.
Yeah. They do like to have each other around.
They do. It was for my own. I needed another cat for my own self-preservation because he'd wake me up in the middle of the night. He'd play with me super, super rough, and I had scratches all over me all the time. He was a kitten too, so, you know, he was really baby. And I just didn't know what to do with him. I'd never experienced anything like this before.
You're right there, mister. Cleaning yourself now.
A bit of clean. Oh, God, he's so cute.
Also very naughty, but...
Yeah. Unfortunately, with cats, there's a little bit of you may never train him out of it.
They do sit for treats. Like, I've got a couple of bags of treats, and I get one out, and they sit now for me. Because before they were jumping up to get my hands with the treats in them.
Right, yep.
It didn't take, yummy
Do
treats.
Do they stay off the kitchen benches for you?
No. I get them down every time, but it doesn't stop them much. They know they're not allowed to be out there. They know by now, though.
They just don't care because they're cats.
Yeah. They don't really get on the one with food on it. They like to get on the one with the big window. So they pretty much, or he does get on there to lick plates if he thinks he smells something nice like cream. But yeah, they just like to sort of sit in the big window.
Yeah. Oh, I can't say anything because originally I was like, I want dogs because my Pharaoh used to get up on the kitchen bench all the time and I did everything to stop him and nothing worked. And so after him, I was like, nah, I'm getting dogs from now on because dogs don't get up on the bench. And now I have a pug who gets up on the kitchen bench.
It's like you didn't think they'd be able to jump that high, but they can.
Oh, it's our fault because of where we have the couch and he can use the couch to get up.
Yeah.
But Nye won't let me move the couch. So I'm like, I just have to put up with this. Luckily, I've got like 2 benches like you do. And so basically I just don't keep anything on the bench he can get onto. Because if it is there, he will get up there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, these two were fascinated about the bookshelf with the candle on it yesterday, and I swear he could have almost burnt his tail off. I'm like, I have to take you to the vet tomorrow. Please don't burn yourself.
Well, again, if he's going to the vet, the time to do it is to injure himself is right before he goes to the vet. Yeah, I have to actually get Sabine into the vet because she's due for all her injections now. It's really hard the first time round after you've adopted to remember that you've got to go get them done.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
Because it's
not
only a
being
month. I've
scheduled.
actually gotten to give them their flea stuff, but since they're inside most of the time, it's not a big deal. I've forgotten. I've only forgotten by like 4 days, so it's
Oh, yeah.
not a huge thing.
Mine are on tablets that take care of all of that. So they're on
Yeah.
Sentinel Spectrum that does all of that sort of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
So one tablet does a lot. Done.
Yep.
Once a month. But yeah, because when they go into foster care, they get all of their yearly injections done straight away.
Yes, yeah.
And so I never did it. And so I've got to remember to get it done. And she's actually overdue now. So
yeah. Well, because they were in foster care, they weren't in care very long. I think they must have gotten there in September. So they hadn't had their flu booster yet because they'd only had their first one on the 1st, and I adopted them on the 3rd. So they pretty much just gone into being adopted.
Were they found?
I don't know.
Really? So little history.
No. Yeah, they didn't say. They don't really tell you that. They just tell you if there's anything wrong with them. But I reckon, I don't know. I reckon he must have been surrendered.
Yeah, because he was naughty, maybe.
Yeah.
I think I'm too used to adopting through Pug Rescue, because Pug Rescue gives you like a whole folder with all of their history and support and help and what to do. And so like I even like with one of them, I even know where they were living in Geelong. And his original owners found us on Facebook because I've got a Facebook page for them, so that I don't constantly post pictures of pugs on my Facebook. And they found us, his original owners, and contacted us through there. And I'm like, that's a bit weird. Don't do that, please.
Well, I reckon if they were surrendered, they weren't desexed, so they were either found or surrendered. And considering he's only got 2 shaved little patches, I wouldn't be surprised if he was surrendered, because his fur's in quite good nick for the rest of him.
Yeah, I'd say so, especially
if
he's only been in there a month.
Yeah.
And that's often an indicator too. If they're not skinny, they probably were surrendered.
Yeah. There was a girl there surrendering her 2 cats, and I'm like, oh, if I'd seen them as well, I probably would have taken them home, because she called them Sherlock and Watson. But I think she must have had to. Yeah, I think she must have had to. I think she must have been leaving, and she couldn't take her cats with her, so she came in and surrendered them and paid the fee and everything. And then she gave me the Revolution she had, because they don't really want to take any half-used stuff at AWO or anything like that. And they're certain they get things cheaper, of course, because they buy in bulk. But she gave me the rest of the pack of their Revolution that she was using on her cats. And then when we went outside, she asked me, because AWO didn't want the cat tree because they hose out the pens. So they don't want anything with black carpet. So she said, do you want it? And I went, actually, I'd really love it. So she gave me that as well. So she was, I think she was pretty sad to leave them behind, but they were nice looking cats. They were well cared for.
I want Sherlock and Watson now.
Yeah. If I'd seen Sherlock and Watson and that's what their names were on the cages, I would have been like, that'll do. Just them.
Done. Don't even need to hold them and see if we get along. It's done. Yeah. No, I wanted I would love to do a Watson one or something like that, but when G called her dog Watson, I was like, I've done it now. I don't feel like I can do it anymore. But if they came with the names, they came with the names.
Yeah, exactly. You can't rename them, especially if they have awesome names already. Not like Nanya.
I totally rename all the time because I believe in awesome names.
Yeah.
So, because I didn't like Griffin's name at all. And so he had to be renamed. I quite liked Sabine's name, but I like pair names as well if they're together.
Yes, yeah, that's what I wanted to do with them too. I'm like, I need a pair name.
Yeah. So that's why they got the names they got, because I've always wanted to have a Sabine, and Griffin and Sabine from the books that I've got just works really well. So I was like, that's good. Nice, but I like Manny. And I'm like, Manny's awful. I hate that name.
I was thinking about calling him Gigi, but he didn't seem like a Gigi.
No, I like the combo you did because I think that
Yeah.
Gigi's like the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Unless it's a black cat, it probably doesn't work anyway.
Yes, exactly.
So,
I'm like, it doesn't really work. I was thinking Totoro for him at first. That's where it sort of got me on the Ghibli. I'm like, Totoro, he's got the colours. But I'm like, that's too many syllables.
yeah. Whereas I totally do Totoro. No, I think I like it because you won't, like, a lot of people would do Kiki and Totoro and all of those other ones, but I reckon I've never heard of anybody doing Tombo before, and I think it works really well. Besides, it suits his cheekiness.
Yeah. And he's a little bit dumb, aren't you? I bought him a treat bowl, like one of those little balls you put treats inside.
Like the Kong type thing.
Yeah, except it's just a plastic ball. You put the treats inside. It's got a little window, so you just open it up to the treat size. So you, whatever size it is, they don't all fall out at once. And I bought it because he's the food hog, and he always looks for food. He couldn't be bothered to work it out. She's worked it out in like a couple of minutes. She saw a biscuit underneath it because I was rolling it around. She saw a biscuit underneath it, and she went to get it, like flick it out so she could eat it, and it rolled, and another one fell out. Oh, so she worked it out in no time, but he just stands there and looks at it. And if a couple fall out and one's not near her, he'll go eat that one. You're an opportunist.
We have a Kong for the dogs, and they're really good about sharing it. Like, I'm really amazed. They just take turns, and then the other one just follows the other one around, and like when some falls down, they try to steal it from them and stuff like that. But they just take turns. But what amazes me, they've got so totally different techniques. Sabine Griffin just sort of does these swipes and lets it roll, and it just goes woo, 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 and like he just watches and see if something falls out. But Sabine goes nutsy on it, and she's like boom, 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 boom. They've got totally different techniques, but I think that's a good thing because I deliberately, because we put dried liver in there, so you have to break it up, and I deliberately leave some on the bigger side so that they're unlikely to actually empty it, and they'll just keep going.
Yeah.
And so they just keep going and going. It's fantastic on wash day. I just set them outside with that, and they just run around until they dry off.
That's perfect. What was it? I got a bag of toys when we went to Kmart, and in it is this little stuffed fish. Like, it's about that big. It's like white with just like a print of a fish bone on it, and it's just got stuffing in it, and a little pillow that says "I love cats," and she loves them because most of the floors are hardwood. And whenever, because it's so light, whenever she flicks it, it goes a mile. So she chases it around and flicks it all over the place, and then beats the crap out of it with her feet. Like, you know, she gets it in her front paws and beats the crap out of it.
She entertains herself. That's really good.
Yeah, she does. She loves playing. Even if he won't play, she'll run around by herself. And then the other day, she runs into the room, like, because I was reading the book, and I just heard her. She just runs in and she goes, brrr, and I look at her, and she's got that little "I love cats" pillow in her mouth, and she looks around, looks at me, and then runs the other way. You just hear her go because I had to take her collar off because she's allergic. So I don't have the bell. So if I hear the bell, I know it's him. But yeah, you hear her going boom, boom, boom down the hallway and boom, boom, boom back down the other way. And then there's a Y-shaped cat tunnel, and you hear. Okay, I know where you are.
It's not hard to know what's going on with her. But you're keeping them inside most of the time, right? So
yeah, usually just let them out for about 15 minutes before dinner, because then they come in. And because his nose is too light, yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I don't think I'm going to have cats again, as much as I want one. Nye loves cats, but he and I have different opinions. I personally think cats should be kept inside, and he's like, oh no, they should live outside and be there as much as they want. And I'm like, no.
They get into too much trouble. It's like, I'm hoping,
That's how Pharaoh died.
Yeah.
And
because most cats die.
Yeah, well, I had always kept him inside, and then because I was moving, thought I was going back overseas. I found a new home for him, but it was out on like a property, and she was
Yes.
going to let him outside, but he was way away from any roads and things, so I thought it'd be fine. 2 weeks later, he was dead.
Mm,
And I'm like, no, cats don't go outside.
no.
They can have like cat runs and things like that, but they don't get to have just free reign in it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking when I finally get the side veranda done. I might see if I can enclose it so that they can run around on there, because they're always trying to get out when I put the washing out. Don't you?
Yeah.
But at the
I
moment,
think
because they're only, because I don't let them out very long, they don't try and run
Yeah.
away, except for when she got through the gap in the fence, but they just sort of amuse themselves running around under the house.
I think it's hilarious when I first let Pharaoh, I didn't let him out, but Pharaoh got out. He freaked because he'd never spent, because I'd had him from kitten. He freaked out. He was just like, what is this guy?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And his belly's on the ground and he's like this. And he crawled underneath my car and he's like,
I think I'm very scared.
Yeah, he was very scared, but he, poor thing. I always feel bad about Pharaoh. Anyway, I stopped discussing him. I've had too many pets die in the last few years. I just feel it's one of those things where you sort of start to feel like you're an awful person and you just like, you haven't done anything wrong.
You just have very bad luck.
I have very bad luck. If you look at each one by itself, you're just like, oh, that's horrible. Oh, that's horrible. You look at them all together and you're like, oh, shit, is it me? Anyway.
Mum has to come and look after them. She goes, am I staying here? I went, you can do whatever you want. She goes, but if I don't stay here, I have to come over twice a day. And I'm like, well, yeah, they need to be fed. And she's like, I'm like, you can stay here if you want.
Why is she even questioning staying? I thought she'd be quite happy. She helped set the house up for you and everything.
Yeah. She just, she'll just make it sound like it's difficult.
Oh, right.
But she's already said, she goes, we can do Christmas here. And I went, I'm not going to be here for Christmas. And she goes, I can have Christmas here. And I went, well, if you want Christmas here, you can have Christmas here.
That is really weird.
She just wants to show off the place.
Yeah. Right,
I'll probably come home and there'll be several new things and, things will be tidied up, which I don't mind.
It's like her second home that she gets to decorate.
Yes. Oh, yeah. She's done so much decorating in here. So many things.
I wish my mum was more interested in decorating my house.
Yeah. I think Mum would have liked to be an interior decorator. Like,
it sounds like it.
So much. And she's like, oh, this can go over here. And she goes, oh, I saw this. You can put it over here. Like, okay.
So where are you going for Christmas?
I'll just see my brother and sister-in-law in Victoria.
Oh,
They're out in Morwell. So
right
out. Moe, Traralgon.
Oh, okay, yep.
Yeah.
We go up that way.
Fair away.
Ish.
Yeah.
Because we go to Tamworth every year, so we drive up in that direction.
Up that way, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's just sort of across from Melbourne.
Yeah.
It's what, 2 hours? Yeah, just 2 hours east.
Traralgon sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure I know sort of ish where that is.
Yeah. All the power stations are out that way in the mines, or the coal mine. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm not even
The
sure
road
my
always
parents
washes away when it pours with rain because of all the mines.
Yeah. Mines and things at the moment.
Usually it's just after Morwell, so if it happens around Christmas, it's fine. Or Easter, it's fine, because it's just after Morwell.
I'm not even sure my parents are going to have a house this year at Christmas, so I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Are they selling, or?
Yeah, they're just like my dad's. They live on a property in Tamworth. My dad's asthma has gotten really bad, and it's not asthma, hay fever. He's got asthma as well, which is triggered by the hay fever. And then he's also got diabetes 1, which because he gets sick from the hay fever and then the asthma gets triggered, it just makes it all bad for his diabetes too. So they're like, it's time to move into town instead of having the property. So they've got it up for sale, and it's like, I don't even know if it's gonna sell before Christmas. And if they do manage to sell before Christmas, if they'll get a new one by then.
Yeah, before then, probably not at this time of year, because it's November. So, that keeps scaring me. It's like November.
just
Not too-
November now. So
Yeah,
if
put
it
you
happens
down.
quickly in the next week or so, I reckon they'll have time to do it. But
Yeah.
it'll have to happen in like the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So
I bought my nephew a little present. I only half looked at what it was online. It was so cheap. It's a 10 book of
sorry, what? Sorry.
10 book pack of like Julia Donaldson's books. So it's like 10 of her books in one pack.
That's
So it's like
great.
Gruffalo and the Gruffalo's Child and all the other ones that I've sort of half heard of. But I was like, oh, that is awesome. I'm like 10 books, and I think it was only like $30. I think it might have been $30 for 10 books. I'm like,
That's
he'll
awesome.
love that. I think he's the right age for that now.
I think I saw packs like that at the post office. Is that where you got it?
No, I got it online, Catch of the Day website. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So I wouldn't be surprised if it's at the post office as well. Because it's sort of just like a little.
I was in there today. I was actually posting books to my niece for her birthday, because her birthday's in November next week.
And I went to the post office and they pick up books.
Yeah. What a surprise. We're book orientated. But yeah, I got her the latest Kate Elliott books. So hopefully it's good and she can tell me, and then I might read it.
Yeah. Oh, and I also got today I found a tea subscription box.
Ooh.
Yeah, so I got 3 teas. Like when you first sign up, they send you. I'll show you the box.
Yeah.
I can't remember how much I paid. It was like $13, and they curate like 3 teas for you. So it came from India. So when you first get it, you've got little instructions about how to brew. They send you a
microwave?
Yes, it do not microwave. Do not heat water in the microwave. And they send you a little scoop. And then, because it's my first one, they've got what happens when you do the subscription, how it works. And then they sent me 3 teas. So for my preferences, they got me a green tea, an oolong, and a black. So they've just got them in little things. I've ripped the top off because I want to smell them. And they've got all the information on the back. So the aroma, the palette, all the instructions in like every measurement. So there's like teaspoons, grams, ounces for the measurements. Then mils and ounces and water, and then Celsius and Fahrenheit, and then your brewing time. Where it came from, the specialty, the caffeine, what you can put with it, like sugar, honey, milk and stuff. Then the current more, and then when the date it was picked as well. So they all have that. I'm like, that is awesome.
Really thorough.
Yeah, so I think there's
That's even more thorough than T2 does.
Yeah, it's 10 grams per pack, I think. Yeah, so they send you 10 grams of each.
Which is a nice sample size, like if you want to just try something.
Yeah, and then I think you can go and review the teas online on their website, and they use that to make more specific matches. So if there's something you don't like, they steer away from that, and if there's something you do like, they look at getting you those ones more specifically. So
that sounds pretty cool.
I thought, I'll leave that subscription on for a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that, but unfortunately at the moment I'm trying to save money so that we can buy the house.
Yes, that takes a lot of money.
Yeah, it all sort of adds up, and
every dollar does add up.
Yeah, so right now it's a case of just books. Books are like my one splurge thing at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
So
then once you get it, you'll have lots of things to buy, but at least then you know how much you've got to spend a fortnight, or like got a budget a fortnight, and then
we have
spend.
We've assigned ourselves like a certain amount of spending money per fortnight, but the hard part behind that is that like out of that I have to, like, if we buy takeaway, I have to use my spending money to get it.
Yeah.
And if we need to buy something for the house, like one of our fans just broke. And like, it's not the kind of thing that you budget for, the fan breaking.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, well, that's probably going to have to come out of spending money. And then I've got to buy all my Christmas presents out of my spending money. I'm like, right, so I
Yeah.
have no spending money really.
Yeah.
Give up. That's it. Just, if I'm lucky, I can buy a book now and then.
Yes, I probably have gone a little bit nuts with my own budget recently by like ignoring it, but I know what I've got enough. I know I'm all right.
Yeah, no, this is the strictest I've ever had to be. Like I have spent most of my adult life not budgeting that hard. Like I'll save a bit and things like that. And really had to budget out little portions of money for everything. But we're like, if we don't do it now, we won't be able to get to the point of buying a house. So we need to do it. So we did it, and living to it is really kind of mean and hard.
Yeah. It's like, why can't you just have these few extra dollars on there? It's like, oh, why can't things be cheaper?
Yeah. Our splurge that we've done recently was that we've paid to do a 6-week archery course.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so, well, we were like, okay, this meets several needs. First of all, it's exercise of some kind. Second of all, it's time together doing something. And third of all, it's doing something different and new, which is one of the other things we wanted to try and do. So we were like, it's meeting a lot of ticking a lot of boxes. It's worth spending the money on it. So, and it's actually really cool and fun.
No, one of my friends does archery, and he lost his car license earlier this year, so he bribes people with going, who wants to come do archery with me? He wants to get taught archery, so to take him down to the or wherever they do archery. I forget, archery range. Somewhere.
Range. It depends on you got internal and out and external. I say this like I'm an expert. I've done one class. So what, you drive me there, I'll give you a free lesson sort of thing.
Yeah, basically. So like, or I'll pay for you to have a lesson, or I'll pay for your bow rental or whatever, because he does have a bow.
Yeah, I take it there's no public transport to get out where he needs to go or something.
No, not in Adelaide. It's pretty much, if you don't live if you want to go to the city, it's fine most of the time. It's not too bad, but you're never going to get to industrial area or anything like that on a bus. So yeah. Nowhere with this is an archery range, at least. I can't even think of where an archery range may be in Adelaide.
Well, I think that's where we got lucky, because we've got an archery range. Like, I could ride my bike there.
Oh, geez. Nice and close.
Yeah, but Nye actually has a bow and arrows and stuff, so we can't ride our bikes because we can't take that on the bike. But it's close enough.
And I guess there's probably a point that you probably don't want to take your bow and arrows on public transport either.
That's a good point. That is true. Yeah. That could look a bit suspicious. Yeah. Fair point. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why it sort of worked out. Nye's done it before. Like, that's one of the reasons. He did it like 10 years ago or something. And so for him, it's always been something he just wanted to get back to. Whereas I'm like, yeah, something new, interesting, sounds fun to me. Why not? Yep. But we've got very different interests, which is weird. Because I'm like, because he's like, he just likes the, you just stand and shoot kind of stuff. Yeah. Whereas I'm like, if you're going to do this, I want multiple targets in different areas. And I'm like, boom, 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 sort of thing. And so we've got these totally different interests in what we like to do. And I'm like, well, at least give me different experiences. So that's fun. Anyway, I just realised we're still recording.
Oh.
Hello, anybody who's still here watching this.
Yeah.
Let us know that you listen to us talk all about our pets and archery and saving things.
And
saving money. Anyway, we should probably go to bed. It's after 11 here.
Yeah, it's almost, it's 11:15 here. So I could probably stay out for another 15 minutes. Yeah, I think
Well, I'm lucky because it's public holiday here tomorrow, so I don't have to get up early. Yay!
Oh, of course. Yes, you're in Victoria.
Yeah.
Yes, our appointment book at work looks a little bit different because all the old ladies and stuff, all the old ladies and gentlemen go out for their Melbourne Cup Day luncheons, where all the rest of us have to work. That doesn't bother us, but it does make it a shift in things. Things are a little bit different.
And
Kind of
how it works at the office, with the appointments. For
yeah,
you, probably.
it's like different people are coming in at different times, whereas you usually have a sort of flow, like these people come in the morning, these people in the afternoon, these people in the evening. Just completely changes, and you're like, it feels a little bit weird today.
Something's happening. I wonder what it could be.
Yeah. Well, if a podiatrist was away today, I'm like, it's so quiet. And people walk in and people notice, because people who are regulars who come and go, it's really quiet in here. And you're like, one of the podiatrists is away today. And they're like, oh, okay. It's like, usually there's like 10 people in here. I'm the only one. Yep.
How many podiatrists do you have working at one time?
3. Generally 3.
Yeah, one would make a big difference. So
Yeah. And one's leaving this year. He gets to do, he applied for going to England and internship, not internship, the exchange in England, and he's going to run the Paris Marathon. He's signed up for the Paris Marathon. I'm like, oh, isn't that weird, like just one see your bodies when you see them leave or something like that? I'm sure it is. I'll have to watch the Paris Marathon next year. But yeah, he's signed up for that, and he goes, I don't know what I'm doing. He goes, I don't know why I'm doing it, but I'm doing it. I'm like, well, you probably only got one chance. That's what he said. He says, I feel so guilty leaving all of you. And I said, well, you're young. You're only going to get to do it once. If you wait any longer, you get a house, you get a girlfriend or something, you're going to be stuck here.
It ties you down. Totally does. Because that's what I went. Yeah, I went to Japan, my very first job straight out of university, and I think it's the best thing I ever did. Because once you get tied down, like I couldn't take Night in Japan, especially to live. Like, he wouldn't survive it, and so you got to do it young when you're not tied to anyone.
Yep. Oh, welcome back. Thank you. He likes to do that. That's what he does. He headbutts your face, don't you? Do you headbutt my face?
It's just I love you.
Yeah, you do, don't you?
So if he's exchanging, does that mean whoever his counterpart is coming in?
Not to us, but I think they do the exchanges the other way as well. But I'm not sure which podiatry businesses do. It might be public sector. Oh no, it might be public sector. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, he gets to go over there. That'll be fun. So we're interviewing for a new podiatrist. So who might take more hours? So we might always have 3 podiatrists in all the time, which would be really weird. So I can't wait for the other girl to come, my other workmate to come back from maternity leave in January. He's not leaving till February. So she comes back from maternity leave. So I reckon we're definitely going to need her.
Yeah. If you find the right person, definitely.
Yeah. It's like I started there 8 years ago now, over 8 years ago now, and I'm like, wow, it's so different. It's like it's so much busier. It's like the amount of work is just multiplied.
Well, it's a growing business. That's healthy and good.
It's like we've been in the place we're in for just over 2 years now, and we could move to a bigger place. We really could. Wow. After 2 years, there's 6 years in the over 6 years in the place because they were there before I started. So they were there for like maybe 10 years or so. And in 2 years, we've outgrown the place that's twice as big as the one we had before.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think in Australia we're starting to get more appreciation of specialists in particular areas. Like I'm finding a lot more people are going to chiropractors and physios and things along those lines. So which I think is a really good thing because so many times people just ignore those sorts of problems.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't even know that these specialists are out there because some people will call up and go, what does a podiatrist do? Because I have no idea whatsoever. We did kindy screenings. A couple of the podiatrists did kindy screenings this year, and we actually got a lot of people coming in from that because they didn't even think, like they don't know what to look for. So as soon as someone points it out, they go, oh yeah, that is a problem. What's it supposed to look like? Oh, okay, there is a problem. It's just a lot of people just don't know to go.
And there's so many things that you don't even realize are affecting your child as they're growing up. Like my nephew, he was struggling with his reading and writing at school, and everyone just thought, oh, he's just better at maths and stuff, and nobody questioned it. But he got transferred to a new school, and his new teacher questioned it, sent him to a development specialist, so just someone who analyzes your child and figures out, where they're having problems and why. And it turned out it was his core muscles. I know, like, it's like, what?
Wow.
But it turns out because of the way because he was a spindly little kid, and he's always been a spindly little kid, but really hyper energetic and everything. So nobody questioned for a minute that his muscles were having any problems, but his core muscles were really weak. So having to sit and do something in a stationary situation, and especially handwriting, was really hard on him. And so he would complain that he was hurting, and but everybody just thought he was saying that because he didn't want to do it. And yeah, so that, and she also had him start chewing gum.
Got to strengthen his jaw, or
no concentration?
No. Concentrate. Oh yeah, I do know. Yeah, people do that to concentrate. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has now in 1 year leaped. He's gone up 3 levels, so 3-year levels in his reading. He is now an advanced reader. So it's just like,
yeah. You don't know what to do. You just think it's absolutely normal until someone points out that it's not. It's like I see kids walking along, and I'm like, that kid should see a podiatrist. That kid should see a podiatrist. Okay, that kid's. And there's another woman who said she works, or she has a lot of back problems, and she sees people for her back, and she will walk along behind people and see people, and they're like, they need to see a chiro, they need to see a chiro, because of the way they walk, and you just like, what are these people doing? They even know that people can help them with those things.
I'm always telling people to go see physios, because I love my physio, and so many things we have problems which you probably would go to a normal doctor for, and they'd be just like, there's nothing you can do about it, or something along those lines. And I'm more likely now, if it's anything other than just like a cold or an actual illness, to just bring it to her, and she'll just say, oh, this is what you should try to do. I was having problems with my ankles rolling, and they were swelling up, and they would be constantly swollen, and I didn't realize what it was. And she said basically what you need to do is ankle strengthening. Basically whenever I brush my teeth, I sit there and go up and down on my toes, and strengthen my ankles. And she said just keep doing that, and it does. It's fixed my ankles. I'm fine.
Yeah. See, that's sort of where the physio and the podiatrist overlap, and then the physio will overlap with the chiropractor as well.
We
often refer to the local physios, and the local physios refer to us as well. And sometimes people see their doctors and they go, oh, my doctor told me this. And it's like, no. But they trust doctors more than they trust the people that they don't know who does what. So it's like, what was it? Someone we saw recently, he had plantar fasciitis, like heel pain caused by.
Nice got that.
Yeah. And the doctor told him, wait a couple of years, it will go away. Wait a couple of years, it will go away. It's like, no, he came in and we looked at his feet, and it's like, no, you need I think they did a screening at a Bulbs Club in his retirement home, and they went, no, you need orthotics. There's no way. After 2 years, it hadn't gotten any better. It's like, no, you definitely need orthotics. The way your feet sit, you're never going to get better. Yeah.
Like, to me, the whole point of a GP is, unless it's just something really basic, which you can prescribe an antibiotic for, the whole point of them is to diagnose you and send, maybe not even diagnose you, but just figure out who's the right specialist for you to go see. Yeah. That's really what they should be doing. They should be going, right, this is the specialist you need to go see so that you can find out. Because to be fair to them, they can't know it all. I don't expect them to know it all.
Yeah, exactly.
But I expect you to have enough knowledge to send me on to the right person who does know everything about that particular area, so that I can get the right help that I need. And look, if I can't afford it, if it's not something that's covered by Medicare, okay, give me the option and say, look, this is probably something that maybe a podiatrist can help you out with. It might not be covered by Medicare if you haven't got the right coverage for it. But you can choose to pay for it, or you can choose to leave it for a couple of years and hope it goes away.
Yeah, exactly.
But don't just leave me with,
it's like the only way it would have gone away for this guy is if he sat on his ass all day and never got up. Never did anything. Yeah. It's like they go rest. Right? Yeah. But when rest doesn't work, what's the next step? I think that's one of the things that I think my cousin's a nurse now, and she was complaining. Oh, I think her podiatrists were complaining as well at one point that sometimes there's no follow up with GPs. GPs just don't follow up when they should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They
like
really
you need
don't.
to tell them
In
you
and
need to come back. Yeah, because our podiatrists have to do that, and all the other allied health professionals and the surgeons especially, if they don't say you need to come back, then they're liable for anything that happens to that patient after that period where they should have been seen. So you have to tell that person you need to come back, and then if they decide they don't want to come back, then you've done your work at least.
duty of
You've told
care,
them they
basically.
need to come back. But yeah, a lot of GPs I don't think say, oh, I'll need to see you again. I should see you again in 2 weeks. Or if you're still having this problem within this amount of time, come back or book in to go see your local whatever.
But I think part of that comes from the fact that we're, especially with GPs, we're moving away from having your local family GP into having these great big medical centres.
Yes,
Like,
that's just everywhere now. I can't get to. Can never see the same doctor twice. Basically, it's impossible.
I can at my local medical centre, I can book Nye in to see the same doctor, but I almost never bother with myself because Nye goes back on a regular basis for the same thing. Whereas for myself, when I go in, it's like I've actually got something I need to go in right now, and so I can't get into the same person. And I thought, okay, well, this is silly. I used to have a regular GP. Yes, I'll have to pay the gap fee or whatever it is to go see one, but at least then we'll have a regular who knows our history and all of that. Let's find one. I can't find one in my area. They don't seem to exist.
Yeah, I have there's the 2 clinics that have been around since I was a girl, and if I had regular appointments, I'd probably be able to see the same doctor. But every other one around us, up until the next older one, are all the GP clinic, Super Plus clinics, and the walk-in clinics. That you never see you can't get in to see the same person twice. One of the girls, her doctor moved there. He moved there because he was going to retire eventually, so he was trying to get on. But she was seeing him there, and eventually they're just like, no, can't go to the walk-in clinic anymore because it just takes, so you have to sit there for, if you have to go in the evening, you have to sit there for so long. Just find another clinic and start going there instead.
Oh dear. The good thing about my one is, you can do the walk-in thing and wait, but most of the time I can get an appointment if I call up, and if you call first thing in the morning, they'll book you in for a certain time. You might have to wait a bit when you go in, but it's not going to be like the walk-in wait type thing. The walk-in wait basically means I'm waiting to see that somebody doesn't come for an appointment.
But ours doesn't do walk-ins. Like the one next to us that I go to doesn't do walk-ins anymore, and I think it's because so many other clinics are just walk-in that they're like, no, we're just going to book appointments for those other walk-in times.
They've got a niche market
or walk-in after 3 o'clock or something. Everyone was just a walk-in, so now they've just booked times for everyone after that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know. Look, having experienced a different system where you didn't even have to go to a GP, sometimes I wonder if that might be the better way to go. When I was in Japan, and apparently America's the same, if you know what your problem is, you don't go to the GP, you just go to the specialist.
Exactly, yeah. And at least with us you can do that, but still some, if we want to refer onto a surgeon, they have to go back to their doctor and get a letter to be referred to a surgeon. Podiatrists can't refer on to podiatry surgeons or orthopedic surgeons. They have to get their doctor to do it.
I think a physio is the same thing. A physio can refer you to go see a doctor, but not a specialist, I think.
Yeah.
Something
So basically what we do is we write a letter to the GP to say we have told so-and-so, this is the problem, we have told so-and-so, they should go see someone, for example, this person or this person, could you write them a referral? And then we actually send a podiatrist referral onto that one that they've chosen to go to as well, because we've heard, they actually said to us once, they get in quicker. If they've got a referral from a podiatrist or whatever surgeon or whatever specialist, they actually get appointments quicker because they're not just from their doctor. They've gone through a podiatrist, and the podiatrist said, yes, you definitely need to see a surgeon.
So they've been properly diagnosed.
Through that lower level. Where the podiatrist has said, okay, there's nothing more we can do for you, or you need to see a surgeon. So they go, okay, they definitely need to see a surgeon because they're definitely going to have to come in for something.
Yeah, I must admit,
just going from a doctor to the referred to the orthopedic surgeon, and then the orthopedic surgeon going, go see your podiatrist or your physio. Yeah.
I must admit that's the one problem that was with that other system in Japan. So I used to go see the ear, nose and throat specialist there, and he was packed out with people there with just colds.
Yeah.
So there are problems behind that side of things, but
yeah.
I
But
suppose
it would be
we
nice if, you know, you didn't have to worry about the doctor in the first place. If you're going to see the podiatrist to the surgeon, that should be all right. But yeah.
This is the fight I have with Nye all the time because he hates GPs. So he's okay with doctors in general, but GPs specifically he doesn't like for exactly the reasons we're talking about. And I've just sort of accepted the fact that when it comes to GPs, sometimes you just need to tell them what you need. Don't wait for them to diagnose you. Just go in knowing what you want and demand it. Write me a referral for this, whatever it is. Whereas Nye doesn't like that, and he doesn't like the way they misdiagnose you or give you the wrong things and stuff like that. And so he's I can't get him to go to the doctor half the time because he goes in for his regular thing who I book in with the same doctor each time. But anything other than that, it's just impossible. All right. I've got you to 11.
Yep, you did get me to 11. Okay, time for bed. Is it time for bed, Tombo? This is the point where I turn off all the lights and they go prying through the house for another hour. Sleep until I go to bed and then they, run around. You turned off all the lights.
We're nocturnal. It's playtime. It's just a different type of playtime. Everything looks a bit different.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I will catch you next time. Bye.
Night. See ya.